The truth is, a couple of years ago, I looked nothing like I do now. And I remember one morning, middle of winter, standing in the hostel bathroom at work. The lights were beaming down, they were harsh. There was a cheap mirror that was just reflecting everything I didn't want to see. My clothes would cling to all the wrong places. My stomach, just pushed against the fabric, just enough to make me aware, to make me self-conscious, and ended up putting my coat on before I walked out, just so no one would see. I felt heavy, slow, older than my age, and yet this was my normal. And I went to work that day, treating patients, telling them how to take care of their health while quietly knowing that I wasn't looking after my own. My stomach felt like it was hanging over my jeans, and I'd wake up, look in the morning, and I'd just feel this low-level frustration every single day. And my clothes always baggy, not because I liked the style, but because I was hiding. I was ashamed. It was uncomfortable. It was embarrassing. But here's the dangerous part. It was acceptable. Society has told us that it's fine to be overweight, that it's normal, that it's okay, that we should just accept it for what it is. And when you've been in that place long enough, you start to believe it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I didn't want to accept that anymore. Okay, I wanted to know what my life would feel like on the other side. What would happen if I pushed my body to the limit? What if I built the physique that I always wanted? And let me tell you, the difference between being, 30% body fat, overweight, fat, unhealthy, and life as a lean, strong, confident man is night and day. And so today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how your life changes after getting in serious shape, physically, mentally, socially, even financially. I'm going to tell you the things that no one likes talking about. When you commit to transforming your body, you're not just changing how you look. You're proving to yourself, and the world, that you have conviction in your actions, okay? And look, muscles aren't just muscle, okay? They represent effort, sacrifice, pain tolerance, years of showing up when no one's watching. It's the ultimate display of self-respect. You're saying, I value myself enough to take care of my body. I'm not coasting. I'm not accepting mediocrity. I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be like the rest. And when I first started taking my training seriously, I remember people around me started to treat me differently. Subtle at first, okay, a little more respect in their voice, people asking me for advice. It wasn't just about the muscle, it was what the muscle represented. Okay, let's start with the physical benefits because yes, being ripped, being jacked, it makes you look better naked, but that's just the surface level stuff. But you'll have more energy, okay? You'll move with ease, okay? You'll recover from injuries faster. And I've seen this firsthand in the hospital, 2 patients, same surgery, more or less the same age. The one with muscle mass is up and walking days earlier. He can get on with his life. What about the frail guy? He had to go through weeks of rehab. His life was burdened for a long time. I could see the regret in his eyes. Basic movements like getting out of bed would take minutes instead of seconds. You become more capable just in everyday things, carrying heavy groceries, lifting furniture, because your friend is moving house, hiking for hours. It all just becomes so much easier. And here's the thing, right? In a shopping mall full of people, you realize how rare it is to see someone that's truly in shape. Guys, the bar has been set so low that just being lean, having a bit of muscle puts you in the top few percent physically. Okay, so you need to train, lift heavy weights, eat nutritious whole foods, cut out the junk, reduce the alcohol, focus on sleeping well, nail your recovery, because that's when you grow. Okay, you don't grow in the gym, you grow outside when you're sleeping, when you're resting and recuperating, okay? And one thing I've noticed is that going to the gym requires discipline and consistency. And sticking to a workout routine, it demonstrates commitment, okay? And self-control. You have a sense of personal responsibility over what you do. That makes you more confident in your ability. Now let's talk about the mental side. And the confidence you get isn't about, walking around, thinking that, oh, I've got muscle, I look lean, I'm better than everyone else. It's not about that, okay? It's about having a deep, unshakable belief in yourself. But what is confidence, okay? What does it mean? It's having a profound belief in yourself, okay? It's how you navigate the world. Being confident is a skill, okay? It means that you have trust in your abilities and you're secure in who you are. Confidence comes from taking action, okay? And being confident has so many benefits in the real world, because the more confident you are, the more confident you become, the better you'll communicate with others. You'll be more adaptable, you have more resilience, you're more likely to be a positive influence to your friends, your family, the people around you. You'll be more assured in your decision making, and it's doing the hard things, proving to yourself that you can follow through that gives you the confidence. And I can't explain it, but when you're in shape, you start trusting your abilities in all aspects of your life. You'll take more risks. You're less likely to crumble, when you get a bit of stress. And here's something I learned the hard way. No one is born confident. You become confident. And for me, someone who was overweight most of their life, lacking confidence, the gym was the foundation. Every rep, every set, every time I showed up when I didn't want to, I was building proof. Yeah, I was building proof that I could be disciplined, proof that I could handle discomfort, proof that I could change my mindset, I could change my body. Here's the part that, people won't admit. Being in shape changes how society treats you, okay? We all judge someone before they even open their mouth. It's human nature, okay? It's not fair, but it's just the way it is. And when you walk into a room and you have a strong athletic physique, the first picture people paint of you is, that guy's got discipline, that guy's got self-control, he's competent. And I've experienced it firsthand. The respect I get now compared to before, night and day. And when you're in shape, people assume you're capable, that you have the answers, that you're someone worth listening to. And the good thing about that is, that expectation, it pushes you up to live up to it, okay? And that makes you an even better man. It's kind of like being like a low-level celebrity. Okay? People are friendlier, yeah? They remember you, they remember your name, they respect your space and what you have to say. And unlike, your height, whether you have hair or not, your eye color, anyone can build an amazing physique, if they're willing to put in the work. And yes, this extends to dating. And when I was carrying extra fat, like I was invisible. I could have the best bands, the sharpest wit, but I was always fighting uphill for attention. Then I got lean, then I built muscle, and something shifted. I remember going to a friend's birthday, same bar we've been to a dozen times before in London, and women who had never even acknowledged me were starting conversations. They were smiling more. They were holding eye contact, touching my arm. Nothing about my personality changed. I was still the same guy. The only difference was the work, I put into my body. Now, I'm not saying, your worth is defined by women's attention, far from it, okay? But attraction is primal, and physical cues matter. When you look like a man who takes care of himself, you project, strength, vitality, confidence, and that changes the game socially and romantically as well, okay? So it is important to be in shape. Now, I need to be real with you. If you lack confidence, it's usually because you let other people's opinions matter more than your own, okay? Maybe it's from social media, maybe it's from your upbringing, maybe it's from years and years of neglecting your health. Getting shredded, won't magically fix every insecurity, but it will remove one massive source of it, okay? How you feel in your own skin. And when you stop feeling ashamed of your reflection, you stop hiding, you stop seeking permission, and you stop comparing yourself to every guy you see online. The freedom that gives you is priceless. This is the part most guys miss. The discipline you build in the gym bleeds into every other area of your life. If you can commit to training and eating well for 1 year, you can commit to building a business. You can commit to improving your relationship. You can commit to leveling up your career. You become the dependable guy, the reliable guy, the man, people can trust to follow through. And the energy you bring when you're fit, it isn't selfish, it's contagious. And think about it, when your glass is full, you can give more to others. And if you're starting from scratch, here's my advice. Just devote 1 year to this. 1 year of tracking your food, 1 year of, training hard 3 to 5 times a week, 1 year of hitting your step count, drinking your water, getting good sleep in the grand scheme of your life. 1 year is nothing. Yes, could be 1% of your entire life, but the rewards, they last forever. And I've never met a guy who's got into incredible shape and regretted it. Of course they wouldn't, but I've met plenty who regret never starting. Here's the bottom line, mate. Getting shape is hard. It takes effort, sacrifice, patience, perseverance, but living in a body that you hate, that's also difficult, man. One of those hard things will make your life worse, and the other will transform every single part of it. And you have a choice, man. If you start today, not tomorrow, not next week or next month, you'll thank yourself for the rest of your life. So what's it going to be? Are you going to make a change today? Or are you going to wait for the perfect conditions? Or are you going to wait when you find the right diet or the right fitness plan? What is it? What are you waiting for? Because if you want to live a life of impact, a life that's enjoyable, a life that's fulfilling, you need to be healthy. You need to be in shape. Because being in shape, being healthy gives you the best shot at living a good life, at living a life that's long and enjoyable and sustainable. Not like the life I see people living in the hospital, which is, it's become a breeding ground of regret. People in their 50s and 60s at the end stages of their life because of the choices they made when they were 20, 30, 40. So being in shape does have an impact, okay? Mentally and physically, but also the way society sees you, the way you see yourself, whether that's leveling up in your career, making more money financially, or trying to, start a business or write a book. Being in shape gives you that baseline level of confidence where you're like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to try this, because what do I have to lose? I know this is going to be hard. I've already done hard. Hard is not new to me. I like when things get difficult. I like testing myself. Yeah, and if you're overweight and out of shape, comfort is your drug. That is what you turn to when things get hard, when relationships get tough, or when work has got you stressed out of your mind. Turn to food, you turn to alcohol, you turn to smoking, you turn to TV, whatever the fuck it is. But when you're in shape, you don't turn to those things. You turn to things like the gym, exercise, sport. So go and build the physique that you're after. Yeah, I am rooting for it. You can absolutely do it. But it starts today, not tomorrow, not next week or next month. It starts now. And if you want someone to keep you accountable, your nutrition, your workouts, your training in check, then DM me the word work on Instagram. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one, man. Peace.